Welcome to Court in Session, Episode 3. I'm your host, Justice Hype. This is not the court of law, more like the court of personal observation and personal experience, where at any point in time you or I may be the judge, jury, plaintiff, or defendant. It's all based on your personal observation and your personal experience. Now, on this third episode, I thought we'd do something a little bit different and highlight someone who has been inspirational and instrumental in my growth and development as a truth seeker, and I'm sure those who find themselves within the conscious community, woke truth seeker community can say the same, as he has given his entire life, devoted his entire life to waking up the masses and shedding light on many of the things that we are oblivious to, yet hold an extreme amount of effect on our lives daily. Who am I speaking of? None other than Mr. Jordan Maxwell, who unfortunately transitioned back to the essence on March 23rd of this year, born on December 28th in 1940 in Pensacola, Florida. Mr. Maxwell is commonly known for some of his books published, including The Matrix of Power and That Old Time Religion. Jordan Maxwell, by many, is considered a researcher and truth seeker and independent scholar who specialized in the field of the occult, which I must say, for those who are not familiar, the word occult simply means hidden. That word has a negative connotation that's often thrown around it, and insists that it is something of a nefarious or dark meaning or dark nature, but it just simply means hidden. Mr. Maxwell's journey into truth seeking as a researcher, a scholar, began in 1959, which is a very interesting period in time for this country and the entire world, as in this country there was a move to find out what was going on behind what we're taught in schools and in university lecture halls. The nonconformist attitude of rebellion and just being a nonconformist to the status quo developed as a common wave, a common thing within the 1960s. And in the 1960s was the development of the hippie movement, the women's lib movement, the civil rights movement. So as we know from our research, that was a very volatile period of time within the country and the world at large, and in time in which there was somewhat of an intellectual renaissance led by men like Jordan Maxwell, with a quest to find out what was under the surface of all these things that were put in the mainstream. Mr. Maxwell served as a religious editor of the Truth Seeker magazine, America's oldest free thought journal, established in 1873, in which he began in 1959 at the age of 19. Mr. Maxwell is commonly known for a lot of his lectures. He's been on countless radio programs. He's been featured on the History Channel for his work on esoteric knowledge, religious philosophies, world religion, secret societies, and secret fraternal orders. Also, he has spoken and written on subjects as various as Atlantis and UFOs, extraterrestrial beings, maritime law and admiralty law, which I urge anyone listening and I urge anyone out there to do their research and gain an understanding on what maritime law is, and admiralty law. It's quite fascinating. These are laws that govern the entire globe and affect our daily lives. So it's very important to have an understanding of these things. Jordan Maxwell traveled the world and traveled the country his entire life, speaking and opening himself up to many people, in which he would use his platforms to interact with people in the Truth Seekers community, and also to extend his research, his knowledge on various subjects. I recall getting his videos on VHS tapes, like in the late 90s, and spending hours watching them, in which he would break down the signs and symbols that govern the world, what the true meanings are behind the signs and symbols, why the compass and the square are important, why is there a square plane used on the top of the headdress at graduation ceremonies, why do scholars or graduates wear black robes, why do judges wear black robes, the different meanings of our words in our language. If you study the English language, you just know that it's just like a gumbo of confusion. It's basically just a hybrid language that has been taken from Latin and the other what they would say romantic languages, and just piece together to kind of form a code that we speak today, but we have really no understanding what the definitions are, the true definitions and the origins of the words that we're using. And if you are someone who subscribes to the train of thought that word power sound, words are actually energy, and our speech forms energy fields that are transmitted, then you know that there is serious repercussions behind the words and the language that we use. So this was just one of the things, one of the many things that Jordan Maxwell dedicated his life to enlightening the public at large on. Right up until his dying day, he had his website and social medias active. You can check out a lot of his videos on Jordan Maxwell TV, I believe it is, right here on YouTube. And jordanmaxwell.com, his website, in which he sold his books and provided lectures and just hours and hours of content on various subjects that many of us, once again within the Truth Seekers community, would definitely find of interest. One of the main things I found interesting is that in many of his interviews, Jordan Maxwell would say that he was followed and that he had come into the presence during his travels and during his many lectures and keynote speeches of people who were very close to our government and also were very influential in some of the secret societies and fraternal orders that he would speak against. And what he said is that he never urged people to bear arms or pick up arms and rebel physically against the government or the institution of power in place. So they didn't really care. He could discuss religion and discuss esoteric knowledge, matters of the occult all day, but as long as he wasn't urging anyone to take up arms and physically fight against the government or the establishment. He was fine to them, in their perspective, he was a non-threat to them. And I found that very interesting, as we know that just about everyone who's made the sacrifice of exposing those in power have been quickly put to death, or their voice has been demonized to the point that it's rendered null and pretty much mute to the general public. You know, and when I think about this, I think about all those within the truth seekers community who have been inspired, whether they know it or not, by the work of Jordan Maxwell, including your Joe Rogans, your David Ikes, your Alex Jones, and the list goes on. Many of these guys are doing what they're doing based on the work of Mr. Jordan Maxwell, who I will leave you with a clip right now from one of his recent or most recent interviews. Peace and blessings till next time. This is Court in Session.
Let me tell you something. Yeah. I'm going to give you 48 years of study. I'm going to give you a secret. Okay. Nothing in this world is what you think it is. Nothing operates the way you think it does.
What do you mean?
Nothing operates the way you think it does.
What do you mean?
Government does not work the way you think it does.
It's not about people voting for a president.
No, it has nothing to do with that. We're talking money. We're talking control, corporations, big business, period.
It's all big business and money.
Period.
Yeah.
End of sentence. Now, religion is a corporation. It's all the religions of the Western world, especially in the Western world, all religions operate under maritime admiralty law. So there are certain...
What do you mean maritime admiralty law?
Maritime admiralty is the law of water. And I talk a lot about this in the past. I'm going to talk a lot about it in the future.
Okay.
There are only two things on the earth, on this earth, land and water.
Right.
So there are two kinds of law, the law of the land and the law of water. The law of the land is the custom of the people who live on a particular piece of land. So the law of the land is different in every country.
Right.
I mean, you can do things in Russia you can't do in America.
Right.
You can do things in South Africa you can't do in China, because it's the law of the land. That particular piece of land has their own custom. So the custom of the people living on a particular piece of land is called the law of the land.
Okay, got it.
But there is also a larger, far more important law on the earth. It's called the law of the sea, the law of the water. And when you get into, and then that law is referred to in courts as maritime admiralty. Maritime admiralty is the law of water. Once you understand the law of water, it opens up a world of occult hidden symbols and hidden foundations on how we live.
What are some of those laws that we're not aware of?
Oh my goodness! When you walk into a courtroom, why do you go to court? You play basketball on a court. You play tennis on a court.
Right.
Yeah. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Come on. And so the judge walks out. He rules from the bench. Right. Look it up in a Latin dictionary. The word bench is a bank in Latin.
Oh.
And so the judge is ruling for the bank. That's why he wears a black robe, because the black robe represents the planet Saturn, the god of banking and law.
Oh.
The black robe represents the planet Saturn, who in the ancient world was called Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
Well, he is Lord of the Rings.
Right, there's rings.
And so women were told in the ancient world to listen to their god, so they would wear an ear ring. Men were to get married before their god, so they wear a wedding ring. Because Saturn was Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
And he is also the inhibitor. He was the one who holds you back. He represents government, banking, the police department, all kinds of institutions that are powerful that can hold you back. He was the inhibitor, the judge, the court, the government.
The structure in astrology.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Saturn was the inhibitor who holds you back. Well, the ancient Jews said, in Judaism, they said, because Saturn was very big in Judaism for many years, and it still is in many ways. But in the ancient Jewish tradition, they said, well, since Saturn is the inhibitor who holds you back, then when we worship him or show honor for him, which is on Saturn's day, which actually begins on Friday night.
The Sabbath, the Saturn.
Sabbath, and the very word Sabbath comes from a Phoenician word for the planet. The planet in Saturn, in the Phoenician ancient language, the Phoenician language was Shabbath, and Shabbath becomes Sabbath. So the Sabbath in the Jewish tradition is the holding back, the worship of the God who holds you back. So the ancient Jews said, good, if he's going to hold us back, we'll do nothing. We'll hang out for the whole day and do nothing, because he's going to hold you back anyway. So therefore, it was referred to as the Sabbath, which is actually Shabbath in the Phoenician language for the planet Saturn. And that's why you have the Sabbath on Saturn's day.
Wow. And all these messages are encoded into our consciousness.
And have no idea in the world where they come from.